Okay, and Saskia, do you find, you work at IFASA, do you find women who are having problems conceiving usually consider adoption, and what are some of the things that they struggle with when considering this option?
A lot of people think it's a last resort, adoption. They really talk about it as you've tried everything and you can't get pregnant or you can't carry a baby to term, so we'll adopt. That's a lot of people's thoughts, and in fact it's still a lot of people's thoughts currently that are going through fertility treatments. I don't like to think of it as a last resort. It's a way to make your family. What we decided was it was more important to us to have a family than to give birth to a baby. So the same as sort of Terri's thinking. But people out there really do think like that. There are a lot of people that do go for adoption information sessions, and a lot of people are inquiring about adoption. They ask me who we adopted through, especially when we got our son, because he is white and there's a very long waiting list for that. We got a lot of people asking for the people's names, but the reality is there's not a lot of Caucasian or mixed race children out there. Most of them are black, and so the people we find now that are actually applying for are ones that have no requests for specific gender or race of the children, which is what our social. We went through a private social worker, and she really tends to work with them now, because there's just so many kids out there that do need homes.
Okay, and Terri, you work as a counsellor for people who are adopting. Do you have the same experience?
Yes, I work as a counsellor and sort of almost like an information giver. So, as Saskia says, people. It is often the last resort, and it does come as quite a surprise to people that they're now investigating adoption. So they need emotional support. They also need to be aware of the fact that there's a grief process involved in not having your own children. You're grieving for pregnancies that didn't happen, or for pregnancies that happened but then didn't go to term, and grieving for the thing that all your friends have got and you haven't got. So there is that process that people need to be aware of. And then they need information. Who do I phone? Where do I go? How much will it cost? What do I do next? So that's what I do. And yes, I get inundated with requests from Caucasian couples wanting Caucasian babies. But more and more, especially in the big cities, we are seeing people coming through and saying, I don't care, I just want a baby. I just want a little cuddly thing that I can squeeze, and it doesn't matter whether it's a boy or a girl or what color it is. And that's always great, because there are apparently about 2.8 million adoptable kids in South Africa.
Wow.
And so if one of them can be homed in a permanent forever family, that's great.
Well, you mentioned the grieving process. How do you tell the people who you work with to deal with that grieving process? What are some ways people can get through that?
Look, grief, everybody handles in their own way. It goes in stages, and I think that the main thing is that it needs to be acknowledged, and it needs to be, people need to say, yes, I am feeling grief and I'm entitled to feel the grief, and if they feel that they need support from family and friends, to share that with family and friends. Because it's very difficult for somebody who's popped out 2 or 3 natural babies to have any idea of what this feels like. So it's an acknowledgement and an acceptance, and also very often, if we're talking about a couple, it's them understanding each other, because men and women and people grieve in different stages and at different intensities at different times. So for me, often it's about saving the marriage, even though they don't necessarily know that it's in trouble, but it puts huge strain on a marriage to go through fertility treatment and then grief and then the adoption process. So I work a lot on nurturing your relationship with your partner and with your close family, and nurturing yourself and healing before leaping into the adoption process.